I'm going to tell you the story about a deal that was a great sales lesson. And the lesson is that you don't move forward in the sales process until the prospect is ready to make a decision as to what they want to do. Which means you seek to understand what information the prospect needs to make a decision, and you give them all of that information, and you don't offer them until they've told you that they're ready to make a decision. And this story is a great example of that lesson because we closed a deal and we made a $40,000 assignment on it. And I talk all the time about how your job as a salesperson is never to get the sale. And in our case, in real estate, your job is never to get the seller to sell their house to you. It's to give them all of the information they need to get them to make a decision. And if you can understand that one simple fact, then you're going to make more money and you're going to build more trust with your prospects. Who am I? My name is Ryan Rice. I'm a full-time real estate investor. I've done approaching 100 deals in my career. I did 40 deals last year. And I share all this stuff with the hopes that I can make you some more money in your real estate business. So here's what happened with this deal. We had a seller reach out. And when she called, she said, "Hey, I'm not quite sure what I want to do. I have this rental and I don't know if I want to fix it up and sell it or if I want to fix it up and put another tenant in there. And so I wanted to call and see, what kind of offer that you would make me." And what I could have done is walk her through our sales process and just offered her. But what I actually did is I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely. What kind of information do you think you would need to make that decision?" And then so she starts going on and telling me about the situation that she's in. And so she shares with me that the tenant who was just in there didn't necessarily destroy the house, but left the house in really bad shape. Lots of holes in the wall. They actually stole the appliances when they moved out. And then after they moved out, someone stole the air conditioning unit. And so she's just been through the ringer. And she's telling me all of this stuff. And as she's telling me, I'm listening to what she's saying and I label what it is that what she tells me. What I mean by I label what she tells me is I said, "Well, man, that seems like it's been a big pain in the butt, Mrs. Seller." And she said, "Well, yeah, it has been a big pain in the butt." And so I said, "Well, to me, it sounds like you don't necessarily want to have another tenant then." And then she said, "Well, maybe, but I kind of, I'm still considering putting money into it to fix the house." And I said, "Okay, great. Well, how are you going to decide if you want to do that?" She said, "Well, I'm not sure how much it's going to cost me to fix the place up. There was a guy who told me it was going to cost X, and I'm not really sure. And so I'm going to work to figure that out. But in the meantime, I figured I'd call you guys and see what you would offer me. And maybe if you offer me enough, I would just go ahead and take it." And so I said, "Well, would it be helpful if I walked you through what those renovations might cost?" And she said, "Actually, yeah, that would be really helpful." And I said, "Okay, cool." And it just so happened that her home was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, and it was under 800 square feet. I was actually working on, or maybe I just sold a house that was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, under 800 square feet house, and we just renovated it. And so I said, "Well, it just so happens that I've just finished renovating a house that is almost identical to yours, and we spent X amount, and we did all of this scope of work." And she was like, "Yeah, you're probably going to need to do a little bit more to my house." And I said, "Okay." And I told her how much it all costs. And she said, "Wow. Yeah, that's a lot." And I said, "Well, yeah, so how do you think that might impact your desire of, figuring out what you want to do?" And she said, "Well, yeah, I don't think I want to do that. I don't think I can put that much money into the house and fix it up." And I said, "Okay, well, if I'm hearing you correctly, then to me, it sounds like you made the decision that you're going to sell it." And she said, "Yeah, I guess I have made that decision." And so right there in the sales process, we made the decision together that she was going to sell the house. And it took about 30 minutes to get to that point. And so I spent a good amount of time on the phone, and I just recapped that for brevity's sake, but it took a long time to get to that place in the conversation. And so it's really important for you guys, as you're out there and you're talking to sellers, you have to make sure that you go in order of what's most important, and that you don't go to the next part of the process until you do the first part, right? Had I just gone through the property's condition, had I simply, underwritten the deal and then offered her, then I would have had to deal with the objection of whether or not she wanted to sell after I offered her when she had the number. And it would have been a lot harder to overcome that objection. And so then what I did is I said, okay, so now you know that you want to sell it. Now you just gotta kind of decide in which manner you want to sell it. Would it be helpful if I shared with you the difference between a realtor and an investor? And so I walked her through that. And overwhelmingly, after I walked her through that, she said, yeah, I don't want anything to do with going through the process of a realtor. I just want to sell it quickly. And I said, okay, so you made the decision you want to sell it. You know that you want to sell it to an investor. Now you just got to figure out which investor who do you want to work with? And I told her, I said, look, I don't care if you sell your house to me, but here are some things that you want to make sure to look out for as you're deciding who you want to work with. And I told her an anecdotal story. And the story that I told her was pretty much, I just finished working with so-and-so seller, and we've had a really good conversation. She was shopping around the house and figuring out who she wanted to go with. And she told me that she really wanted to work with me, but that she decided she was going to work with this other investor because they told her they could pay her $15,000 more. And I was maxed out on what I could give her. And so I kind of gave her some things that I suggested she be aware of, but she decided to move forward. And then it was probably 3 months later, the seller called me and was like, Ryan, I can't believe I'm going to tell you this, but just like you said, the person ghosted me. It's been a terrible experience. Is your offer still on the table? And we were able to underwrite the deal again, and we were able to get her the original offer, and we ended up closing on the deal. And she told me when that happened, she said, Ryan, please tell this story to everyone else who you're working with that potentially offers them more money, because I want to save them the hassle. And so I told her that story. And I said, but again, I don't really care if you work with me or not, but I think it's important. Do your due diligence. Make sure whoever you're going to work with is someone that you can trust and you know is going to close that deal. And so again, I walked her through all of those stages, right? When she called in, she didn't know if she wanted to sell. We handled that. She decided that she wanted to sell. Then she didn't know which route. We handled that. We decided that she wanted to sell to an investor. And then it was a matter of who. And while she didn't decide that she wanted to work with me, I just gave her some good information on how she could decide who it was that she wanted to work with. And as we got through the rest of the sales process, I was then able to have a standard sales conversation with her. But it took all of those steps to get her to that point. And again, had I offered originally without taking care of each objection in that order, there's no chance I would have got the deal. So very quick lesson, but it's such a perfect example of how, as a salesperson, again, your job is not to land the sale. You have to address specifically what each prospect needs, and you have to do it in the right order. And then when you offer, you've handled all of the obstacles up until that point, and there's very few objections to handle once you've offered. And so the lesson again is, if you're talking to a prospect, and in our case, a seller, and they don't know what they want to do, then you don't move forward in the sales process until they know that they want to sell the house. And if you can follow that, you'll make more money. So hope that was helpful. And if it was, if you guys could share that story, that would be great. Let's flood the real estate community with more investors who know what they're doing and who are better serving their prospects out there, as opposed to a bunch of investors who are not serving their prospect in the right way. So share this. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.